Okay, we're going to talk about 6 ways that we can use our listening skills specifically within a group discussion setting. And we're going to talk about the importance of reading the room, encouraging more silent members, keeping big talkers in check, staying on topic, disagreeing thoughtfully with people in the group, and then calling out personal attacks. One of the most important things you want to do for an effective group discussion is to start by reading the room. I do public speaking in different organizations sometimes, and the person that hires you to do the public speaking is like, "Oh, we're so excited to have you." Just because they say that doesn't mean it's true. And the first thing you want to do is read your audience, right? Are they here because they are excited about the idea? Are they stoked to get this opportunity to have this presentation, or are they there because they're being forced to? Would they rather be doing their own work? You need to read the vibe of the room. Likewise, I recently had a committee meeting where the chair of the committee was the last person to arrive, and before they arrived, everyone on the committee was talking about how upset they were about this decision that the committee chair had made and this idea that the committee chair had. And then the committee chair came in and was like, super chipper and in a good mood, and just hops right into the meeting, completely unaware of the resistance and negativity in the room towards that idea. So it is incredibly important to just check in with your group before you begin the discussion. And you'll notice I start class like this, that at the beginning of class, I always ask like, "Hey, how's everything going? Any general notes, comments, questions about the course?" Just because I want to give that opportunity of feedback to check in to make sure everything's going well before we begin class. You also want to make sure that everyone contributes to the conversation. So we often assume that people who don't speak up they don't speak up because they're in agreement, and that very well might be the case. But often just because someone's silent doesn't mean that they agree with you. So it's important to get their opinions, to check in. And so the way we do that is by observing nonverbals. Pay attention to the quieter members of the group and see when they have a strong reaction to what is being said. Use their nonverbal cues, their body language, their facial expressions to understand when they have an opinion or something that they want to say. And then you can call out that emotion and ask an open-ended question. So you can be like, "Hey, Dave, it seems like you're having a strong reaction to this. What do you think about XYZ?" And now you've brought them into the conversation. And then, of course, the other thing you can do is follow up with feedback after the discussion and say, "Hey, Dave, you have some really good ideas. I notice you're usually quiet during meetings. What's going on with that?" And you can have a discussion about that. When you want to disagree with someone in a group setting or a group discussion, we're going to start by using our restatement. So we make sure that we understand what the other person's position is before we disagree with it. We highlight areas of agreement, just like we did with persuasion. We say, "I agree with you about this." And then we offer our point of view, our opposing point of view. If the conversation is being dominated by one or a few people, we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to contribute. So especially if there's one person who's like talking, we can restate what they're saying. So we kind of just briefly summarize their overall point to get them to quit talking. And then we can pivot to a quieter member and ask an open-ended question. So it'd be like, "Oh, hey, Dave, this is your perspective. Thanks for sharing. Susan, what do you think about this? I'm curious to hear what you think about this." And of course, we're using nonverbals to decide which quieter member to pivot to. If this is a consistent problem where one person is often dominating the conversation, then you can also follow up after the discussion with feedback, right? So just be like, "Dave, you have a lot to contribute. I notice you also kind of dominate the conversation sometimes. Can you work on, pulling back and giving other people the space to contribute?" If someone goes off topic, you want to restate their message and restate it in a way that ties it back to whatever the purpose of the discussion is supposed to be. And then ask an open-ended question. And you have two options here. You can ask an open-ended question to the person who has gone off topic. You can say, okay, so it sounds like you're saying X, Y, Z. How does that connect to what we're discussing today? Or what do you see as the connection to this topic, this discussion? Or you can pivot again to someone else. And if someone's kind of just going off topic and you want to get the conversation away from them, you can restate the off-topic person's message and then pivot to another person in the group. And again, you can follow up later with feedback if this is a consistent problem. So if someone's always going off topic, then you can meet with them after the discussion and use your feedback tools. One of the most important things you need to do in a group discussion is call out personal attacks. So again, task conflict is good. It's great to argue about what you're doing or how you're doing it. It's great to argue about ideas. It's not good to have interpersonal conflict where you're attacking other people, their character. And so if this happens in a group discussion, always call that out. And sometimes it happens in subtle ways. So someone might say something like, oh, I think Dave's being overly sensitive about this topic, which is really saying that Dave's idea isn't valid because of who he is as a person, right? That's a personal attack. And so you have to be very careful. Be sure to call those out. It's one of the biggest things that undermines safety and people's willingness to share and be honest in a group discussion. And if someone's being personally attacked, it not only silences them, it silences other people in the group who were thinking about speaking up or offering a different perspective. So whenever anyone makes a personal attack, immediately interject and make sure that everyone understands that that's not okay within the group discussion setting. All right, so that's how we use our listening skills to facilitate group discussions. We read the room, encourage more silent members, keep big talkers in check, stay on topic, disagree thoughtfully, and call out personal attacks. Be the enforcer. Good group discussions don't just naturally arise. Sometimes they do, but group discussions, meetings, teams, they need to be managed in a way that facilitates the open sharing of communication in the ways that we just discussed. So be sure to step up and enforce these rules within the group or team that you're working on. Now, you want to be the enforcer. You want to make sure that these rules for effective group discussion are followed within the group discussion. And yet, if you are too heavy-handed with your conversation management, what ends up happening is what you see in this diagram here, that everything goes through the facilitator, the leader in the group, where maybe a group member will say something, the leader will restate open-ended questions, someone else says something, and then it goes back to the leader, and then it goes back to the group and back to the leader. And the people in the group aren't interacting with each other at all or very much. They're mostly interacting with the leader. That is not what you want for an effective group discussion. What you want is something like this diagram where everyone has equal interactions with each other. Everyone in the group is equally contributing and talking, and not just talking to the leader, but talking to each other as well. And so it's important that everyone in the group understands these rules of group discussion, and so that that everyone in the group is acting as an enforcer, and it's not just the leader who's directly managing the conversation, but everyone in the group is doing that in a way that encourages everyone to share and offer their unique perspectives. Today we talked about facilitating effective group discussion. We talked about threats to group effectiveness like conformity and obedience. And then we talked about using our listening skills to encourage everyone to contribute to the discussion. Knowing that the thing that makes groups effective is everyone being willing to share their unique perspective.